Let me tell you something most people don't want to hear. The moment you stop chasing, the moment you stop explaining, the moment you stop trying to prove your worth, that's when everything changes. See, people think holding on tighter keeps love alive. They think calling again, texting again, showing up again will make someone finally see their value. But the truth is, desperation never creates desire. Pressure never creates passion. Peace does. And I know that sounds backwards. I know it feels wrong. Because when you care about someone, your instinct is to fight harder, love louder, and try again. You think letting go means losing. You think stepping back means giving up. But what if letting go peacefully isn't weakness? What if it's power? When you let go without anger, without revenge, without drama, you don't disappear. You become unforgettable, because nothing confuses a man more than a woman who doesn't beg, doesn't argue, and doesn't break. A woman who simply chooses her peace and walks away with her dignity intact. See, when you stop reacting, he starts reflecting. When you stop chasing, he starts wondering. When you stop trying to be seen, suddenly he sees you everywhere. Your silence becomes louder than your words ever were. Your calm becomes heavier than your tears ever felt. And that's when the shift happens. Not because you manipulated him, not because you played games, but because you finally stopped abandoning yourself. Letting go peacefully sends a message without saying a word. It says, I know my worth. I don't need to convince you. And I'll be okay whether you come back or not. And that message hits deep. Because the hardest thing to replace is not attention. It's peace. The hardest thing to forget is not arguments. It's the person who walked away with grace. So today, we're going to talk about why letting go calmly, quietly, and confidently is exactly what pulls him back. And even if it doesn't, why it still sets you free. Let's get one thing straight from the beginning. Letting go peacefully does not mean you didn't care. It means you cared enough to stop hurting yourself. There's a difference. Most people think walking away has to be loud. They think it has to come with ultimatums, tears, long paragraphs, and emotional speeches. But real power doesn't announce itself. Real strength doesn't beg to be understood. It simply chooses peace. When you let go calmly, you're not punishing him. You're protecting yourself. And that's where everything shifts. Because when a man feels chased, he relaxes. He feels secure. He feels like he has time. But when he feels the absence of pressure, when he notices you're no longer trying to pull him closer, his mind starts asking questions he avoided before. Why is she quiet? Why isn't she fighting? Why does it feel different now? Silence creates space, and space creates reflection. When you stop forcing connection, you allow reality to speak. And reality speaks louder than emotion ever could. You see, the problem was never that you loved too much. The problem was that you loved while abandoning yourself. You kept giving explanations when understanding wasn't being offered. You kept showing up where you weren't being chosen. Letting go peacefully is you saying, I'm done negotiating my worth. And here's the part nobody tells you. When you let go without bitterness, you don't become invisible. You become mysterious. Because calm confidence is unsettling to someone who expected chaos. He expected anger. He expected tears. He expected one more message. But what he didn't expect was your peace. Peace forces accountability. It removes distractions. It makes him sit with his thoughts without your emotions cushioning the impact. And that's when memories hit hardest. Not the fights, not the arguments, but the way you loved him without losing your softness, the way you showed up consistently, the way you didn't try to control him, the way you made him feel safe. When you walk away peacefully, you take that feeling with you. And suddenly he notices the silence where your presence used to be. Here's the truth. Men don't miss chaos. They miss peace. They don't miss arguments. They miss stability. And when you stop reaching out, stop explaining, stop checking, you give him the opportunity to feel the loss fully, not as punishment, as reality. Because love that is always available is taken for granted. But love that chooses itself becomes valuable. Letting go doesn't mean closing your heart. It means closing the door to disrespect. It means you trust that what's meant for you will meet you halfway. And if he comes back, it won't be because you begged. It'll be because he realized what he lost, realized what he underestimated, realized what peace actually felt like. And if he doesn't come back, then you didn't lose him. You gained yourself, because the greatest return of letting go peacefully isn't him coming back. It's you coming home to yourself. You stop waking up anxious. You stop overthinking every message. You stop questioning your value. You breathe again. And that version of you, calm, grounded, unbothered, is magnetic, not just to him, to life, to love, to the kind of connection that doesn't require you to shrink or chase. So don't be afraid to let go gently. Don't be afraid to walk away with grace. Because peace isn't what you lose when you let go. When you chase someone, you slowly give away the power you don't even realize you have. It starts innocently. One extra text, one more call, one more explanation. You tell yourself you're just being loving, just being understanding, just trying to fix things. But deep down, there's fear driving it. Fear of losing them. Fear of silence. Fear that if you stop reaching out, everything would disappear. Chasing is loud. It's anxious. It's restless. It's your heart running ahead of you while your dignity struggles to keep up. And the hardest truth is this: the more you chase, the less you are felt. Because chasing tells him you're afraid. It tells him you'll bend. It tells him he doesn't need to step up, because you'll fill every gap he leaves behind. When love is always available, it stops feeling valuable. When attention is guaranteed, it stops being appreciated. That doesn't mean you loved wrong. It means you loved without boundaries. Attraction doesn't grow in pressure. It grows in space. It grows when someone has room to miss you, to think about you, to feel the absence of what you brought into their life. And chasing removes that space completely. It answers questions before they even form. It soothes discomfort that was meant to teach something. Peace does the opposite. Peace is quiet. Peace is steady. Peace doesn't rush to explain itself. When you stop chasing, you're not playing games. You're not trying to prove a point. You're choosing to stand still instead of running towards someone who keeps stepping back. That stillness is powerful, because when you stop chasing, something strange happens. The noise dies down. The back and forth fades. And in that quiet, reality shows up. He starts to notice what's missing. Not your texts, not your calls, but the feeling you brought with you, the warmth, the support, the calm. Peace restores attraction, because it reminds him of who you were before the anxiety took over, before the overthinking, before the emotional exhaustion. It brings you back to yourself, and that version of you is grounded, centered, whole. There is nothing more attractive than someone who is okay without you but chose you when they were there. Chasing says, I need you to stay. Peace says, I trust myself either way. And that difference is felt immediately. When you stop chasing, you stop begging to be chosen. You stop shrinking your needs to keep someone comfortable. You stop negotiating your worth In small, painful ways, you allow him to feel the weight of his choices without cushioning the impact. That's not cold. That's honest. Peace doesn't chase because it knows what it offers. Peace doesn't argue for attention. Peace doesn't try to convince someone to see value. It simply steps back and lets the truth surface on its own. And if he feels the loss, it's because the connection mattered. If he reaches out, it's because the silence spoke. If he doesn't, it's because the chasing was never going to save it anyway. Peace restores attraction because it restores you. Your breathing slows. Your thoughts settle. Your heart stops racing towards someone who isn't running toward you. You remember that love is not supposed to feel like anxiety. Desire is not supposed to feel like desperation. And connection is not supposed to cost you your self-respect. When you choose peace, you stop forcing outcomes. You stop trying to control emotions that aren't yours to manage. You let go of the illusion that effort alone can create reciprocity. And in that release, attraction has room to return. Silence is not empty the way people think it is. Silence is heavy. Silence is loud. Silence carries weight when words have been overused and emotions have been exhausted. When you stop speaking, stop explaining, stop trying to be understood by someone who has already decided not to listen, silence becomes the space where truth finally has room to breathe. Distance makes people panic. Silence makes people think. When you pull back, not out of anger, but out of self-respect, you create a pause that can't be ignored. There are no new arguments to distract from what's really happening. No fresh emotions to soften the discomfort. Just time. And time forces reflection. Reflection doesn't happen in chaos. It happens when everything gets quiet. When you were talking, explaining, asking questions, he didn't have to sit with his thoughts. Your words filled every gap. Your emotions did the emotional labor for him. Silence removes that safety net. It asks questions without asking anything at all. Why does it feel different? Why isn't she reaching out? Why does this quiet feel so loud? Silence doesn't chase. Silence doesn't demand answers. It simply steps back and allows the mind to wander where it's been avoiding. And that wandering leads to memories, not the arguments, not the tension, but the moments of ease, the way you listen, the way you understood without judgment, the way your presence made things feel simpler. Silence gives those memories space to rise. Words push them down. Constant communication keeps everything on the surface. Silence goes deep. This is why silence feels uncomfortable. It exposes what distraction hides. When you stop reacting, he has to face himself. He has to sit with his choices without your voice softening the impact. He has to feel the absence without immediate relief. That absence isn't punishment. It's awareness. And awareness changes things. Silence also changes you. Your nervous system begins to calm. Your mind stops racing for the perfect words. Your heart slowly detaches from the need to be understood by someone who wasn't meeting you halfway. In silence, you start listening to yourself again. You notice how tired you were, how much you were giving, how little you were receiving. Silence becomes a mirror. It shows you what the noise was covering up. It shows you where you were bending too much, where you were over-explaining, where you were trying to earn something that should have been freely given. Silence is not manipulation when it comes from clarity instead of strategy. It's not a tactic, it's a boundary. It's you saying without saying that you will no longer chase connection where presence is inconsistent. And the irony is that boundary invites reflection more than any argument ever could. Because when someone realizes you are no longer trying to convince them, they start asking why. When your energy withdraws, it leaves behind questions that don't have easy answers. Silence creates curiosity. Curiosity leads to thought. Thought leads to realization. And realization is where real change begins. Not because you forced it, not because you demanded it, but because you finally gave space for it to happen. Silence doesn't guarantee someone will come back. That was never its purpose. Silence is not a promise. It's an opening. An opening for truth to show itself, for intentions to become clear, for reality to stand on its own without emotional interference. And whether he reflects and returns or reflects and stays away, silence still gives you something priceless: clarity. Letting go is often mistaken for rejection, but in truth, it is an act of deep self-respect. Rejection comes from not being wanted. Letting go comes from no longer accepting what hurts you. One is about being pushed away. The other is about choosing yourself when staying begins to cost too much. Most people hold on longer than they should because they're afraid of what letting go says about them. They think it means they weren't enough, that they failed, that they didn't love hard enough. But letting go doesn't erase the love that was there. It honors it by refusing to turn it into suffering. There's a quiet courage in stepping back without anger. No slammed doors. No dramatic exits. No speeches meant to make someone feel guilty, just a soft decision to stop abandoning yourself. Self-respect shows up when you realize that love without reciprocity slowly erodes your sense of self. You begin to notice how often you excuse behavior that hurts you, how often you silence your needs to keep the peace, how often you tell yourself to be patient while your heart grows heavier. Letting go is you finally listening to that weight. It's you acknowledging that staying doesn't make you loyal. It makes you exhausted. That explaining doesn't make you understood. It makes you invisible. That holding on doesn't always mean strength. Sometimes it means fear. Fear of starting over. Fear of being alone. Fear of admitting that something you hoped for isn't becoming what you needed. Letting go requires honesty. Not with him, but with yourself. You don't let go because you stop caring. You let go because you care enough about yourself to stop accepting crumbs. You care enough to believe that love should feel safe, not uncertain. That connection should feel mutual, not one-sided. This is where self-respect begins to heal you. When you choose to let go, you reclaim your time, your energy, your emotional space. You stop centering your days around someone else's availability. You stop measuring your worth by how quickly they respond or how often they show up. You begin to feel yourself again. And something powerful happens when you move from rejection to self-respect. The story changes. You're no longer the one who was left behind. You're the one who stood up for herself. You're the one who refused to stay where she had to beg for consistency. That shift changes how you carry yourself. Your shoulders relax. Your voice steadies. Your heart stops shrinking to fit someone else's limitations. Letting go doesn't close your heart. It protects it. It draws a line between what you will tolerate and what you deserve. And that line is not punishment, it's clarity. Self-respect is quiet. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't need validation. It simply moves in alignment with truth. And the truth is, someone who truly values you will never require you to lose yourself to keep them. They will never make you choose between love and dignity. They will meet you with the same effort you bring. Letting go makes space for that kind of love. Whether it comes from the same person or a new chapter, the standard has been set. You no longer confuse intensity with intimacy. You no longer mistake effort for chasing. You recognize the difference between holding on to hope and holding on to yourself. And once you learn that difference, you don't beg to be chosen again. You choose yourself. Men don't miss noise the way people assume they do. They don't sit awake at night replaying arguments or rereading emotional messages. They don't long for tension or constant back and forth. What stays with them, what actually lingers, is the feeling of peace they didn't realize they were standing inside until it was gone. Peace is subtle. It doesn't announce itself. While it's there, it feels normal, almost invisible. It's only in its absence that its value becomes clear. When you were calm, when you didn't add pressure, when being with you felt like rest instead of effort. That's what gets missed. Attention can be replaced. Noise can be recreated anywhere. There's always another distraction, another conversation, another source of validation. But peace is rare. Peace requires emotional safety, consistency, and acceptance without control. When a man experiences that, even briefly, it leaves an imprint. He may not talk about it. He may not recognize it right away, but he feels it when it's gone. The moment life feels heavier, louder, more complicated. That's when the memory surfaces. You didn't argue every point. You didn't demand perfection. You didn't make him feel small for his flaws. You allowed him to breathe. And that kind of space is addictive. Men miss peace because peace doesn't drain them. It doesn't ask them to perform. It doesn't constantly test them. It simply exists, steady and grounding. And when they lose that, they don't just miss the person, they miss who they were able to be around that person. Calmer, more open, less defensive. Peace gave them permission to soften. That's why chaos never holds the same weight. Chaos is loud but forgettable. It burns fast and fades quickly. Peace sinks in slowly and stays long after everything else has ended. When you walk away peacefully, you don't leave behind guilt or resentment. You leave behind contrast. Life after you feels different. Conversations feel shallow. Connections feel rushed. Something essential feels missing, even if they can't name it. And that absence keeps showing up. In quiet moments. In moments of stress. In moments when they need grounding and realize it's no longer there. Peace becomes the standard they didn't know they had. This is why letting go calmly is powerful. You don't have to remind him of what he lost. The world does that for you. Life does that for you. Every stressful day, every unfulfilling interaction, every moment of emotional noise highlights the calm that once existed. And peace is not dramatic. It doesn't chase recognition. It simply stays consistent in memory. Men don't miss attention because attention is easy to find. They miss peace because peace is rare and irreplaceable. They miss how you made things feel lighter, how problems didn't feel as overwhelming, how silence felt safe instead of awkward. They miss the emotional shelter you provided without making it conditional. That kind of presence is not loud enough to be appreciated in the moment, but it is deep enough to be felt when it's gone. And when peace leaves, it doesn't slam the door. It lingers in the spaces where comfort used to live, in the moments where ease used to exist. In the realization that not everything that is calm is boring, and not everything that is loud is meaningful. Calm confidence doesn't demand attention, and that's exactly why it's so powerful. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't try to prove anything. It simply exists, steady and grounded, and people feel it before they understand it. Calm confidence is not loud energy. It's quiet certainty, and that kind of certainty stays with someone long after you've walked away. When you're calm, you're no longer reacting from fear. You're no longer trying to control outcomes or force reassurance. You stop chasing clarity from someone who isn't offering it. You trust yourself enough to stand still, and that changes how you move through the world. Calm confidence says, you know who you are, even when no one is choosing you in that moment. It's the way you stop over-explaining, the way you stop defending your feelings, the way you don't rush to fill silence anymore. That shift is felt immediately. People expect emotional reactions when things end. They expect tears, anger, questions, explanation. So when you respond with calm, it disrupts their expectations. It creates uncertainty in a place where they thought they had control, not because you're cold, but because you're centered. Calm confidence makes someone reflect because it removes the emotional leverage they thought they had. There's nothing to push against, nothing to argue with, nothing to fix. Just your quiet acceptance of what is and your refusal to beg for what isn't, and that's unforgettable because confidence without chaos feels different. It feels mature. It feels grounded. It feels rare. Anyone can be dramatic. Anyone can fall apart. Not everyone can walk away with grace and still keep their heart open. When you choose calm, you're choosing self-trust. You're saying you believe you'll be okay, even if this doesn't work out. You believe your value doesn't disappear because someone else couldn't meet it. That belief changes how people see you. Your energy becomes lighter. Your presence becomes intentional. Your absence becomes noticeable. Calm confidence lingers because it leaves unanswered questions. It makes someone wonder how you managed to hold yourself together, how you didn't crumble, how you didn't chase. And those questions keep you in their thoughts longer than any emotional outburst ever could. There's a strength and restraint that people don't forget. Calm confidence also protects your heart. It keeps you from saying things you'll regret. It keeps you from exposing wounds to someone who hasn't earned access to them. It allows you to leave with your dignity intact, knowing you didn't betray yourself in the process. That matters. Because later, when emotions settle and perspective returns, you won't replay moments of regret. You won't cringe at words spoken from desperation. You'll remember that you handled yourself with grace even when it hurt. And that self-respect shows. Calm confidence doesn't mean you didn't feel pain. It means you didn't let pain make decisions for you. It means you honored your emotions without letting them control your actions. That balance is rare. People remember how you made them feel, but they remember even more how you handled yourself when things fell apart. Calm confidence becomes the final impression, the lasting image, the version of you that stays in their mind when everything else fades. Because there is something deeply striking about someone who doesn't need to convince anyone of their worth. They simply know it, and when you know it, others feel it. Winning isn't always loud, and it doesn't always look the way you imagined it would. Sometimes winning looks like waking up without the knot in your stomach. It looks like checking your phone without fear. It looks like breathing again without waiting for someone else to decide how your day is going to feel. If he doesn't return, it doesn't mean you lost. It means the outcome stopped controlling you. For a long time, your peace depended on his choices, his messages, his moods, his availability. And you told yourself that was love. But love that keeps you anxious is not love that's aligned with you. So when you let go and he doesn't come back, something shifts inside you. Slowly, quietly, you start realizing how much weight you were carrying that wasn't yours to hold. You stop checking timelines. You stop rereading old conversations. You stop wondering what you could have done differently. That space where hope used to ache begins to soften. Winning is reclaiming your emotional energy. It's no longer pouring your heart into someone who couldn't meet you with the same consistency. It's choosing to invest in yourself instead of waiting for someone else to choose you back. You begin to feel stronger, not because you hardened, but because you stopped bleeding in places that never healed. There's a strange relief that comes when the door closes and stays closed. The uncertainty ends, the guessing ends, the emotional tug-of-war ends. And in that stillness, clarity appears. You see things more clearly now. You see the imbalance you kept ignoring. You see the effort you kept justifying. You see how much you gave without receiving the same care. That awareness is part of the win, because now you know what you will never accept again. You know the signs. You know the feeling of being halfway loved, and you respect yourself too much to return to it. Winning is not about proving anything to him. It's about no longer needing validation from someone who couldn't give you what you deserved. If he doesn't return, you gain something far more valuable than his attention. You gain self-trust. You gain confidence that you can survive disappointment without losing yourself. You gain the ability to walk away without falling apart. That strength stays with you. It shows up in how you set boundaries, in how you communicate your needs, in how you no longer overextend to be chosen. You move differently now. And here's the part most people don't realize. When you win yourself back, you become unavailable to relationships that require self-betrayal. You don't have to force standards anymore. They become natural, automatic, non-negotiable. Love feels different when you're no longer afraid of being alone. You stop settling. You stop rushing. You stop confusing intensity with connection. You start choosing alignment over attachment. So if he doesn't return, let that be the confirmation, not the rejection. Let it show you that what you released was not meant to grow with you. Let it free you from a version of love that asked you to shrink. Because the real win isn't him realizing what he lost. It's you realizing what you gained, your peace, your power, your sense of self.